Hello, sir. Welcome to the HDZero Cafe. Are you ready to order? Oh, I'm not really sure yet. I can't decide between the Nano V2 and the Nano Lite.
Ooh, it's smoother. Wow. It's smoother.
I'll have what he's having. All right then, 1 Nano 90 coming up. Hey everybody, I'm Bacon Ninja, and what is in this box right here is what made Joshua Bardwell make those noises that you heard while I was ordering at the HDZero Cafe, which isn't a real thing, but if it was, I guess you'd order cameras. Hopefully you don't eat them, but that's in this box, the thing that made him make those noises. A full-grown man made those noises while flying a drone, while playing with his toys. It made him do that. Involuntarily, I might add. I don't think he expected to do that, but it happened. And it might make me do that too, because to be honest, I have not actually played with this toy in this box. And what this toy is the HDZero Nano 90 camera. It's a very special camera, and if you can gauge anything by Joshua Bardwell's noise making, it's very special. But I don't know yet because it's still in the box. It actually just came in today. In full disclosure, HDZero did not send me this camera. They did not. This came from my lovely, lovely Patreons who helped me afford this gear so that I can see if it makes me make those noises. And if it does, you're going to get it on camera because in this video, I'm going to fly it for the first time live, basically. I'm going to have no preparation at all. I'm just going to go fly it and point a camera at myself, and we're going to see what happens. But before we get to that point, let me explain to you why this camera is so special compared to the other cameras HDZero has out. They have a lot of cameras out, and a lot of them are collaborations with RunCam, because after the SharkBite system kind of died off, DiviMath started using RunCam to help them produce their cameras. So we got things like the Micro V2, the Nano V2, the Nano Lite camera, all of the other cameras that came before it in the Micro V1 and the Nano V1 and all the SharkBite cameras. There are quite a few cameras out there for the HDZero system, and almost all of them are still supported to this day. Some are better than others. Even FoxEar makes one, even though I have it back there on the wall, and before I ever even got to fly it, it cracked in half. I'm just saying. That's why I've never actually flown the FoxEar version of HDZero cameras. But this one stands out among all of them for a couple of reasons. And that is because the Nano 90 not only supports the standard 720p 60 FPS mode that other HDZero cameras do, it also supports 540p modes, and it supports two of them. It supports 540p at 60 FPS, which will lower the resolution and give you better penetration, which has been a problem with HDZero. A lot of us have really pushed for more penetration out of the system because it can't compete with things that output 1200 milliwatts. I'm not going to name a whole lot of names, but different transmission methods with retransmits and more latency actually have better range and penetration than HDZero when you're talking about going through obstacles. Now, in open air, it's not that bad at all to run HDZero, but if you're talking about going behind trees or buildings, it can get really noticeable. And the 540p 60 mode basically gives the system more time to slow down and transmit the data, so it is able to penetrate better and get more range with better data due to the fact that it slows down a little bit, has less resolution, and has the ability to carry that in the same band that it carries the 720p stuff, and just have a little excess room to work with. Now, the other mode is the most important one, though, because it is 540p at 90 FPS. And in order to use that, you must have the HDZero goggles, because these are the only HDZero receiving pieces of equipment that support a 90 hertz rate of receiving. So that means that this camera only works with those goggles. It will not work with your SharkBite VRX, and it will not work with your HDZero VRX, because since these things natively output HDMI, they do not have the capability to output a 90 hertz signal. You'll have to get the HDZero goggles if you want to play with this thing. But like I said at the very beginning, this camera made Joshua Bardwell literally step back and rethink his position on how he felt about HDZero, because it was just so good. He was literally baffled by it. He was not expecting, I don't think, to have such a good experience with it. It's just another HDZero camera. 90 FPS, woohoo, whoopity-doo, right? HDZero has low latency anyway, even at the 720p 60 FPS modes. It's very similar latency to analog, much better than the other digital systems out there, if you want to look at it as just a latency comparison. But really, with these goggles, you can get the transmission glass to glass, meaning the glass in front of this camera to the glass in front of your eyes, down to about 3 milliseconds. And some lab numbers show even less than that, really. 3 milliseconds, that is really, really, really fast. And when we're talking about normal latency of HDZero being sub 20, but between 15 and 20 milliseconds in most cases, going down to 3 is a massive, massive jump. A massive jump. So is that why it makes such a difference to run the 90 hertz refresh rate and 540p resolution so that you can cram extra frames in there? Is that what really does it? Now, let's go fly it and see if I make similar embarrassing noises. All right, so I'm out of my spot. I got the HDZero goggles, I've got the Nano 90 camera, and the first flight we're gonna do out here is actually on 720p at 60, which is the regular resolution that any other HDZero camera normally does. I just wanna see how it performs compared to something like the Micro V2 in a standard setting, and then I'm gonna fly some pack on the low latency mode and see what it does. So let's get this thing in the air. All right. It looks like HDZero. That's for sure. It's very much like what I'm used to on the Micro V2. The default colors are a little more saturated, I would say, than the Micro V2s are. But it looks very, very similar resolution-wise to what I'm already used to flying. So nothing too crazy here. I will say though, for a nano camera, it looks pretty darn good. Considering nano cameras are so much smaller. Nano cameras are so much smaller. I'm just gonna stay above the ground a little bit to make sure that I get used to this thing. See the breakup? Yeah, the breakup. Yeah, HDZero breakup. Just went behind a tree. And this is with the Freestyle 1 watt transmitter, by the way, if you're wondering. That's what I'm pairing this with. Because all of the modern VTXs will support this camera. So that would be the Whoop Light, the Freestyle VTX, the Race V2. All of those will support this camera. And since I had a Freestyle, I figured why not just give us the full watt to play with. Anyway, yep, it looks fine to me. It definitely passes for HDZero. Ah! Disarmed. And I crashed. It's a good time to end that pack. Anyway, here we go. Alright, so I went and found the quad, and I have set it in 540p 90 hertz mode. So this will be the low latency, lower resolution mode that Bardwell was so impressed with. Let's see how I feel about it. Alright, so right off the bat, definitely lower resolution. It definitely feels good. It feels really responsive, actually. Like, I wasn't expecting much. Just playing around these trees. Trying to come at them weird. It actually feels really good. Okay, let's get closer or something. I bailed out of that pretty quick. I didn't come into that very well. You can see my crosshair and stuff are like way off from the 4.3. Yeah, let's go do some freestyle over here and see what you do. It's good. It's pretty darn good. save that from the ground. I'm just doing stupid stuff now. Okay, let's get out here and just do some open air spaying. Yeah, it feels good. I don't know that it's a night and day difference for me, but it's definitely a difference. It definitely feels better. I missed the resolution a little bit, but not that much. Yeah, look at that. It's bouncing right off the ground. I'm gonna ruin this battery. Oh. It's good. It is definitely good. Huh. Pretty interesting. Well, let's go back to the bench and talk about it, but first I'm going to kill a few more of these packs. And through the magic of editing, we're back in the studio, the place where it hurts when I pee. I put that there because we're talking about a high frame rate camera. I don't have whatever it is you think I have. I promise-ish, sort of. Anyway, that's what that means because we're talking about a high frame rate camera. And I'll admit, today's a different day than the first day when I started and set it down here. And I had to put the same shirt on so I could confuse you. But I have given this a lot of thought since I flew it and since I talked about it initially. I really have. And I thought about how I came into this feeling. Just full disclosure, I came into testing this feeling like there was no way in hell I was going to be able to tell the difference between a 720p 60 and a 540p 90 other than a drop in resolution. Because personally as a pilot, I can sense latency, but I can adjust to it really well within a couple of packs. My eyes and my thumbs are really well connected. Now that's not everybody though, because some people's eyes and thumbs are connected at different speeds and they sense latency a little more. I just don't happen to be that kind of person. I know it's there, I overcome it, and then I forget it exists, basically. For me, smoothness is a big deal though, because latency variability is a real problem. When I recently tested the walk snail system, the variability of that latency made me just not want to fly the thing until they get some more firmware stuff worked out, along with the smearing. We call it the melt zone now. This doesn't have the melt zone. It doesn't have the latency variability. This is HDZero we're talking about. Completely separate system, completely separate technology. So, what do I actually think of this? I mean, I kind of gave you some thoughts initially after I flew it, but I think this is actually a really, really good camera. It is actually special. It is actually worth the time and money if you want to get one. I could feel the difference, even though I went in completely expecting to not feel the difference. I was completely negative about what I was anticipating, even after watching Joshua Bardwell's review where he was super surprised by it, because I've noticed that Joshua Bardwell tends to be one of those people that can feel the low latency. He has pretty easy variance numbers because of the speed of his eyes and fingers. But I went in just thinking it wasn't going to happen, and it literally surprised me. It really did. Now, I didn't make any animal noises, and it wasn't as fun as Joshua Bardwell's, but yeah, you saw the flippity flops I did real close to the ground, and they made it look stupid, and you might think that that's not freestyle. I get those comments an awful lot. But that just goes to show you how reactive you can be with a camera this smooth at this kind of latency. It is very, very good. And for a nano camera, it's even better because you can't really tell that this is a nano camera when you fly it. The aspect ratio will always be 4:3 because that is a fixed aspect ratio in this. But other than that, you cannot tell this is a nano camera. I run the Micro V2 pretty often, and I don't think that I could tell them side by side in the HDZero goggles with those really nice OLEDs. If you set them side by side and you didn't move the quad and you didn't put it in 540p mode, they were both in 720, I don't think I could tell the difference. So you get the same experience in the regular mode, but you also get the option of using this super consistent, super low latency mode that literally does make a difference for how you fly. It really is worth the money. And speaking of money, it's $64.99, which is kind of high for a nano-sized cam. But this one does come with an 80mm MIPI cable attached, which unlike all of the other HDZero cameras I've ever purchased, except for the Whoop Light kit with everything in the box, that don't come with any MIPI cables, this one has one. So you're saving yourself $10 there. So if you want to call this one $54.99 because you don't have to buy a MIPI on top of it, that's probably more in the zone. And it's totally worth that. Now, I'm not saying you should go yank them all out of your fleet, but if you have the HDZero goggles, you should pick one of these up just to see if you like it. And this is going to work with all of the modern VTXs, which is kind of what I said while I was flying it. So that's the Whoop Light, the Race V2, the Whoop V2, and the Freestyle VTX, all the modern ones. Basically everything except for the TX 5.1, and if you're still running one of those, use an OG HDZero person, and I don't know why you still are running that and how it hasn't died yet, but congrats on outliving your hardware. That's pretty impressive. That's back in the shark bite days, or right after them anyway. Now, if you're going to ask me, will this ever work with the HDZero VRX? No. The 90 Hertz mode is never going to work with the HDZero VRX. To my knowledge, there are no plans to implement a 90 Hertz capability into the HDZero VRX to do this, or put it out the HDMI into the goggles that you may be putting on your face, which none of the goggles in the market except for the HDZero goggles will even take a 90 Hertz signal right now. So no, it's not going to work for that. I do hear, though, that the 540p 60 FPS mode or the high penetration mode will eventually be available for the VRX. And I do think that the 720p 60, the normal mode, will be available for the VRX as well. And switching the modes is pretty easy. You can't do it over smart audio or MSPVDX control, but you do it with stick commands. So you take the left stick and you move it to center, and then you push it all the way to the right and hold it for a second after the quad is fully booted. You will be presented with the camera menu where you can scroll down to the bottom and change the modes between the various things that it offers. And once you change it, it saves it, and I do recommend rebooting the quad after you make that change, just to make sure it's good and set, and then you're off to the races. And if you have the HDZero goggles, you can support all of those modes, and if you don't, I bet you wish you had HDZero goggles. Pause for sneeze. And while I'm on the topic of that high penetration mode, because I think that is another great thing that this camera is going to be capable of, and I say going to be capable because that mode's not available for me to test yet. It's actually not even available on the goggles. It's not available on the VRXs, but in theory, it should be a lot better. And you saw how easy it was for me to get that breakup going just going behind a tree. So that mode should really help alleviate the problems. So is this camera worth buying? Let's circle back around to, is it something you should pick up? If you have the HDZero goggles, you might want to pick up one, but why? Why would you do this? Well, if you are a pilot that cares about HDZero because of the consistent smoothness, this camera is going to give you the maximum of that. If you are a pilot that cares about HDZero because of the lowest latency, this camera is going to give you the maximum of that. If you are an HDZero pilot who cares about getting the most range and penetration out of the HDZero system, this camera is going to do that. So this camera is probably the de facto you should buy this standard for cameras as long as you fly 4.3 and don't care about 16:9 and you don't mind a resolution dip when you want to use the other modes. You always have the 720p 60 mode if you want the full resolution HDZero, but as far as I know, there is no 1080p mode, which should be coming to some of the other cameras like the Micro V2. I don't have a whole lot of details on that, but I know it's on the way. So this one probably won't get that, being that it's a nano-sized sensor. It's a 1/3 inch sensor. But yeah, all the other things it's really, really good at. It's the best at all those other things. Now, if you're going to put this in a quad that currently has a Micro V2, just something to keep in mind. This thing is a nano-sized camera, so it is narrower than your 19mm mounting pattern, and it's not square. It's kind of rectangular, which is more like what the Whoop Light camera had. So your normal adapter plates are not going to work. You're going to have to probably print something special made for this to get the rectangular box camera into something that will fit a 19mm width. So just keep that in mind if you plan on putting this in something big. I had to do that with mine because I put it in a full-size 5-inch freestyle quad. So yeah, of course with mine, what I actually did was just cut up one of the little adapters and then put the sides on there. And I did a really ghetto job of it, but my God, it flew, didn't it? You saw them flippity flops and things. But anyway, yeah, if you have the HDZero goggles, you should probably pick one of these up and try it. You really, really should. I think it is totally worth the time. I went into this completely ready to not be impressed and came out the other end pretty impressed. I really, really did. Good job, HDZero. Good job, all the people at HDZero who made this happen, who talked about doing it, and gave pilots what they wanted. Because this is something that pilots have been wanting for a long time. And you are really pushing the boundaries of what these cameras and this system are capable of. It is awesome to see it happen, and you're doing it in a super small size that fits in just about anything you want to put it in. Really good work, HDZero. I'm happy to see where you're going, and I look forward to the future of what HDZero is going to give us down the road. And that's all I've got. If you want to talk about this, leave a comment below. Ask your questions. Let me know what you think. Are you flying one of these? Do you enjoy it? Did you make noises like Joshua Bardwell? You tell me. And if you don't want to leave a comment about that, and you just want to tell me how stupid my face looks, you go down there and do that too. It's perfectly fine. You won't be the only one, I promise, so don't feel singled out by that. It's perfectly fine. And if you want more information, head on over to the Bacon Corner Discord, where I spend a lot of time along with a bunch of my fellow baconies over there. And yeah, we have a really good meme chat going too. If you want to drop some memes with your question, we'll really appreciate that. And if you want some really detailed technical information, be sure to check out the HDZero Discord, because a lot of great people hang out over there, including a lot of developers. So you can ask your super technical questions to those people, because they will absolutely know what they are talking about in every instance, and they are super helpful. I highly recommend it. And that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. Thank you, Patreons and channel members, for supporting me and allowing me to test this thing. I'm sorry I didn't make any terrible, horrifying grown man noises. But yeah, until next time, stay greasy, run at 90 hertz, and I'll catch you later. Hello, sir. Welcome to the HDZero Cafe. Are you ready to order? Okay. And then I'll do the... All right then, 1 nano 90 coming up. But I may not actually use that part. So...